My name is Dr. Ibrahim Busolo. I am a lecturer of archaeology and history at the Pwan University. And besides that, I do research. My area of concern has been the archaeology of the East African urbanism and development. In this workshop, I've been training research assistants and giving technical support towards people who are going to be involved in data collection in the field. It is important that we interact with the research assistants and the other stakeholders who will be involved in community interactions as they collect data that is required to develop the body of the research study. My interest is that the subject saw 10 years as slavery. As much as it was so devastating, the best way is not to sweep it under the carpet, rather to bring it out by asking people to speak about it. It's important for people to know that humanity around the world have been involved in slavery. Either some acted as masters or others were victims across both the world. What we see in the history of slavery is an evolution of the trade that eventually disadvantaged many people who had suffered. The traditional and indigenous means of economic production had failed because people were uprooted from their own social fabrics. And so they lost what you can call their heritage in various ways. So one other impact was about depopulation of the African societies, of the more energetic individuals who actually would have formed part of the economic systems of these societies. As much as there might be an issue of reparation, the validity will quite be very difficult to prove in the courts of law because those who are involved are not presently alive. What is important is to acknowledge probably talk about the truth and reconciliation as a means of moving forward. The question of slavery has not been discussed much in the academic circles, and therefore we do not have an academic viewpoints. Now we're drawing people from the villages and we want to interact with them. There's definitely an element of being able to learn one or two things in terms of how to be able to unearth information. One aspect that I'm now aware of is that this complaint by people, descendants of the slave trade in the diaspora, who feel that that some communities in Africa are responsible for their sale in the slave trade. And so having interacted here has helped me know that there are people complaining against the present African societies as having been the perpetrators of the slave trade. And that gives us a perspective, an understanding from another dimension, which probably we hardly thought about. When an announcement for any gathering regarding a study or a discussion on the issues of slave trade, not many people are willing to come out to discuss freely, meaning that there is still stigmatization that has affected the discussion. The slave trade that took place around the world, and especially around the African continent, varied from region to region. The East African slave trade was slightly less in terms of magnitude of the people involved, and also the cost of operating trade routes and consignments from the East African to the main markets of slaves in the Caribbean. We realized that North America and South America, Central America constituted large farms of land that had been taken over by the Spanish, the Italians, and Portuguese and French. And so, and then of course West Africa being in a closer proximity to the Western European powers and closer to the Caribbean, the cost of transporting slaves was much lower compared to getting slaves from the East African region. So it became also easier to even continue smuggling slaves from West Africa to the Caribbean much more than it was to smuggle slaves from East Africa across the tip of South Africa to the Caribbean. given that the patrol ships of the British were mainly commonly around the western seaboard of Africa. With the emergence of the media space, especially the digital media space, which provides a very good and reliable means of disseminating information, not only to a selected audience, but to a wider audience. I feel that the gaming methodology as a means of documenting our history, especially on slave trade, is a very good alternative means away from the conventional literary publications, which is a confine of the scholarly audience. So the gaming approach is an important one and very timely because of the age in which we are, the digital age, which appeals to almost everyone else in society, including the youth who have not been attracted to reading books, including children who can be easily involved in the gaming activities as they learn more about the slave trade and other subjects that may have been of interest in the past. So to me, I think gaming strategy as a documentation is good because first it appeals to a wider audience and not only academic audience. It also includes the youth and the children who are able to interact with this media in terms of the present day technology.